In contrast to what was happening with the Kirtland Saints, in section 97, the Missouri Saints also receive a really strong warning. The Savior tells them in verse 7, "The axe is laid at the root of the trees, and every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit shall be hewn down and cast in the fire. I, the Lord, have spoken it." You see, the saints in Missouri, for whatever reason, had dragged their feet when it came to building the temple. Now, they were living in difficult frontier conditions among a community that didn't like them. And there were a lot of reasons why there was conflict between the saints and the Missourians. Missouri was a slave state, and most members of the church came from the northern United States, where they didn't practice slavery. The church members believed that the Lamanites, the Native Americans, had a special destiny and purpose, and that wasn't something that the other settlers liked very much either. As Latter-day Saints poured into the territory, some of the original settlers worried that they would lose political influence and power. And all these things led to conflict that flared up around the same time Section 97 was given. So just a few days before this revelation was received, and before Joseph Smith could have possibly been aware, mob violence broke out against the saints in Jackson County. The church printing office was destroyed. Several leaders of the church were tarred and feathered, and other people were beaten and forced out of their homes. And the Savior is pleading with them and warning them that if they focus on the temple, they'll receive his protection. In verse 8, the Savior said, "Verily I say unto you, all among them who know their hearts are honest and are broken, and their spirits are contrite, and are willing to observe their covenants by sacrifice, yea, every sacrifice which I the Lord shall command, they are accepted of me." But it's also possible that the saints of Missouri just couldn't imagine that they would lose their land because it had been designated as the place for the city of Zion. In their mind, it was the land that was significant and important, and that's why they couldn't imagine that it would ever be taken away from them. Now, in section 97, the Lord clarifies exactly what he means by Zion and what the city is. The land is still important, but in verse 21, the Savior taught, "Therefore, verily, thus saith the Lord, let Zion rejoice, for this is Zion, the pure in heart. Therefore, let Zion rejoice, while all the wicked shall mourn." It was possible for them to lose the land because the Savior wasn't as worried about the land as he was about the people. A few months before the persecutions broke out in Missouri, Joseph Smith had written a letter exhorting the saints to purify themselves, to live the laws, to live in harmony with each other, and become the kind of people that were worthy to live in Zion. Joseph Smith, writing in a letter to W.W. Phelps in Zion, a few months before the persecutions erupted, said, "The Lord will have a place from whence his word will go forth in these last days in purity. For if Zion will not purify herself so as to be approved in all things, in his sight he will seek another people. For this work will go on until Israel is gathered, and they who will not hear his voice must expect to feel his wrath." Then the prophet very emphatically and pleadingly told the saints in Missouri, "Seek to purify yourselves, and also all the inhabitants of Zion, lest the Lord's anger be kindled to fierceness." Now, sometimes, because we're Latter-day Saints and because we've been given tremendous blessings, we have this idea that the blessings are just inevitable, that they're going to come to us, that a temple will be built in our area, or that we'll have the opportunity to do the things that we want to do because we're the good guys. Well, it's not necessarily the opportunities, the land, or anything physical, but the people that make up Zion. The Lord was concerned with creating a people that could inhabit the city. The trees, the buildings, even the temples were less important than the people that would go into them and receive their blessings. In this case, the Lord was trying to reassure them that even if they lost the land, which they did, they could still achieve Zion by becoming pure in heart. And that Zion wasn't really a place they were going to arrive to. It was something that they were going to become.